The Statement of Financial Information, or SOFI, is a report that all local governments and public bodies are required to submit to the government in compliance with the Financial Information Act, a statute or law of the province of British Columbia. So what information is in the SOFI report? Hi, I'm Gloria Mertens, and this is That's My Take, an interpretation and education about village council proceedings. The Community Charter and Local Government Act requires local governments and other public bodies to prepare financial statements for each fiscal year. It is the responsibility of the village's chief financial officer to prepare these statements and present them in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles for local government, as well as have them independently audited by a qualified auditor. The fiscal statements must be presented to the municipal council for acceptance. They are part of the public record, must be available for public inspection by June 30th of each year, and must be accessible for at least 3 years thereafter. These statements must also be submitted to the Inspector of Municipalities by May 15th of each year. A complete SOFI report consists of several components. 1. A statement of all guarantee and indemnity agreements. These are agreements which creditors use to protect themselves against debt default if they have any doubts of the borrower's ability to fulfill its obligations under a loan agreement. There were no such agreements in the last 6 SOFI reports that the village has online. 2. It requires a statement of what elected officials were paid for the year, including their expenses, as well as a list of employees or staff that make $75,000 or more. 3. It requires a statement showing the names of suppliers which provided goods or services over $25,000 to the village. 4th, it requires a statement of any severance agreements, which is a package of pay and benefits offered to an employee upon being laid off. And 5th, it requires the audited financial statements. The financial statements report the local government's actual financial position, its assets and its liabilities, as well as its financial activities, the revenue and expenditures for the year, in this case 2020. The financial statements include consolidated financial statements about the local government and all of the services or entities controlled by the local government, such as fire protection, utilities, transportation, and recreation. It's an interesting exercise to try to educate oneself as to where taxpayers' money has been allocated and to study financial trends. Here are a few financial fun facts. In 2020, a severance package of $38,750 was paid out to the former CAO when she left the village after 6 months in the position. In 2019, remunerations for the current mayor and council went up 24% compared with the previous year in 2018. The total remuneration and expenses paid to elected officials and employees of the village totaled $1.2 million in 2020. Urban Systems, the engineering firm that the village insists on using, has collected over $2.2 million in the last 6 years for consulting, designing, and planning. Councillors make about half as much as the position of mayor in most communities. The mayor of Ashcroft makes close to $15,000 and an additional $18,000 as a TNRD director. The TNRD remuneration will close to double now that our mayor has been elected as vice chair of the TNRD. Comparatively, the mayor of Kamloops makes $99,000, or about $1 per person, while taxpayers in Ashcroft pay about $10 per person. to support the mayor position. The village collected $2.4 million in municipal taxes, of which $1 million was transferred to other governments. Revenues from municipal taxation in 2020 decreased slightly from taxation collected in 2019 by about $754. In 2019, the fire department had a reserve of $33,650. In 2020, this reserve is reported as having dwindled to just $385. It must be stressed that audited financial reports are not forensic investigations of financial records and are based on what documents are provided to the auditors. So there is a type of disclaimer statement in the audited report that states, "Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, but is not a guarantee that the audit conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists." The village used to include in the minutes every 2 weeks accounts payable, which showed every check that was dispersed. Since 2017, this practice has been discontinued and financial oversight is much less transparent. If residents are concerned about how their tax dollars are spent, it's up to them to be vigilant, make inquiries, and ask for clarification. After all, consolidated statements or lump sums of financial categories presented to citizens once a year makes it hard to interpret the data or catch financial anomalies. At least, that's my take.